Okay, hello everybody. It's Faye here from the Shaman in the Garden. And guess what? It's not just me today. I've actually got a friend, a plant passionate, amazing plant lady to come and chat with you. Her name is Nina Veteto. I hope I've got that right. I tried that. I've been rehearsing that one. Her name is Nina, and she writes a really a botanically inspired newsletter, and she has botanically inspired conversations with people like myself and plant passionate people. She writes a substack at Flora and Forage, and she is actually in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which we're going to ask her all about. So I'm really excited to have Nina here. We met a few years ago. We were just trying to work out when, during one of my courses. And she really is really inspiring in terms of foraging, in terms of really connecting to the plants in a really creative and I think joyful way. So I'm really excited to welcome Nina, and I'm going to let Nina introduce herself and her Substack, and let you hear it from her about what she is focusing on at the minute. So welcome, Nina. It's really lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Faye. I am so honored to be here. It's such fun to connect with you again. And yeah, I'm just loving this and looking forward to our conversation.
So, yeah, me too. Thank you so much. And I want to also, before we dive in, I really want to encourage everybody listening and you and me to just close our eyes and really let's connect to the earth. So, as my audience knows, I like to do that, just connect through our feet, connect to the earth where we are at the minute. So, I'm in Scotland. You, Nina, are over in the US. And wherever anyone's listening from, just connect in with the earth, sink those roots in, and make that conscious connection to bring in the earth energy, the energy of Mother Earth into this space. And let's bring in all the plants. And I feel like Nina is bringing a whole host of wild flowers and beautiful herbs and bushes with her that she kind of meets on these lovely Appalachian trails. So I'd like everyone listening to just kind of expand into that place, because we all bring with us a landscape, and then it's through the landscapes that we individually carry that we create these new landscapes when we meet and we have conversations like this. So thank you everybody for doing that. Thank you, Nina. And yes, please let everyone know what is Flora and Forage about, and what inspired you to kind of create your Substack, and or really, just share what encouraged you to start.
Wow, it's a good question. And thank you for that lovely introduction, Faye. I know we are an ocean apart, but I do feel that we are connected through the plants and through our geography. I recently, learned that the Appalachian Range, which I am, of course, deeply connected to here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, originally extended all the way into the British Isles. So I'm excited that we are, connected in that way. There, my understanding is that there is an effort to have this sort of international Appalachian Trail connection. So anyway, just wanted to say that I love that you brought up the importance of place and the importance of the plants in those places. So thank you for that beautiful introduction. Um, let's see, I started Flora and Forage about maybe a year and a half ago, I guess it was. I had started um, an Instagram account a few years back called Blue Ridge Botanic, which is the name of my business. And it was where I shared what I called secret stories of the wildflowers. So I would do little reels about the things that interested me about the plants, and that's primarily their stories. And much to my great surprise, it became quite popular. And so I decided that maybe what I needed to do was um, have a place where I could go deeper, with the information and also with the community of people who had gathered around. So I found out about Substack. It felt like a good fit for me, and so I got it started, and I've really really enjoyed the platform and getting to know such fabulous people. And it's just a place where I yeah, talk about plants and the things that are inspiring me. And sometimes I'll put out some reels about folklore. But I also just talk about, yeah, things that are going on. So, um, yeah, that's mainly what I've been doing there.
Well, it's a really, like I said, and to anyone listening, please go and check it out. It's Flora and Forage, and I found it when I felt it was a very joyful space, and it made me smile, and I think that's what wildflowers do,
Mhm.
actually. So it did really kind of it helped, it really hit me in the heart, which I think is always a really good sign that's that's how the plants guide me anyway. Um, I want to just circle back actually to the secret stories of the wildflowers, which kind of almost like brought you here. So this is kind of part of your journey following the nudges, that, surprise us. And I wondered, is there a particular flower that kind of, was a bit of a signature theme for you in terms of, kind of revealing your path or helping you get out of your own way, so that you could follow, where the plants were guiding you?
Ooh, wow. There's so many. It's hard. It's so hard to choose just one. Um, I just returned from this event that takes place every year in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which is considered Wildflower National Park, because there are more wildflowers growing there than in any other national park here in the U.S. And they host a program each year called the Wildflower Pilgrimage, and I was very honored to be invited to go and lead hikes. So I'm just returning from that adventure, and I would have to say that probably, well, I think there is a plant that a wildflower that is has it definitely captured my imagination and has always been special to me. And I just got to see it. It's blooming right now in the Smokies, and that is pink lady slipper orchid. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Faye. Are you familiar with that plant?
I am, and you know what? I think I might have it. I think I might have it in the garden. I'm not sure, or maybe I just have common orchid. Is pink lady slipper really rare?
It is pretty rare, yes. But it didn't used to be necessarily, but it, was harvested to near extinction. The thing that's so unique about it is that it is such a wild flower. I mean, it
Hmm.
will only grow where in the place that it was born. And if you try to transplant that flower, it will not have it. It just says, it just gives up the ghost. It's like I will only grow in the wildest of places. So it is a truly wild flower. And it is such a distinctive flower. It looks like a little slipper, a little ballet slipper.
Hmm.
And it's a just an extraordinary plant. It's quite large when you see it, in person. And it's exceptionally hard to pollinate. So it really is, it just is its own creature in so many ways. Um, and I had a very mysterious encounter with one um, a few years back. And so that's always stuck with me. And I feel like it's one of these plants that in its wildness, um, you know, when you do have a chance to see it, there's just something so powerful about that. Um, so yeah, I'm thinking a lot about it right now. Um, but yeah,
Mm.
I'm happy to share that mysterious encounter if you think if you think it would be interesting to
I
people.
think I
Yeah.
think everyone listening is going, yes, yes, yes. Tell
Okay.
us about this
Okay, great.
mysterious encounter. I noticed
Okay.
you were choosing your words wisely placed for mysterious encounters, fairies and all, you know?
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, okay. So I don't think I've ever shared this story before. So here we go. So a few years back, like probably going on 10 years, I would say at least, I was hiking in um, a, a forest that's very dear to me, really special place, hiking on this particular trail. It's actually my favorite trail of all time. It's called Trillium Trail, but at that point, the Trillium were passed. And there's a beautiful grotto, sort of this weeping grotto at the top of this trail. It's an uphill hike. It's just such an enchanted little hike with the streams running all around. And this is in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Um, and I was hiking along and I looked over to my right and I realized that there was a beautiful pink lady slipper orchid in bloom. I hadn't really expected that to be there, just thinking, the trillium were past but there it was. And I was so excited to see it. Um, and just sort of like taken aback that I knelt down and, sort of like, I was just so excited. And I touched the leaf of the plant of the lady slipper orchid. And um, I just sort of like excited, grateful to see it. And in touching the leaf, I sat there for just a second. It couldn't have been more than a second or two. And all of a sudden, I realized that there was this very powerful presence in front of me. And I, and it was a male presence, and it frightened me. Like it was so powerful and so sudden that I physically jumped. Like I jumped. And and then with that it was gone. But what I saw was right in front of my face, um, the image of a man with horns coming out of his head.
Mm.
So that classic, almost like devil, right? Um, so the face of this man was somewhat um, not specifically male, but kind of, I would say maybe almost like elven like, but these huge horns coming out of his head. And I was more or less shocked by the suddenness and the intensity of his presence, but then he was gone as soon as I jumped, right? And I and in reflecting on it in the moment, I thought, oh my gosh, that looked just like the devil. How could that be? I wasn't scared from that perspective, but that was the image. So I just went on and just, had my hike, but just kept rolling over in my head over and over again. Well, several months later, I came across the image of Cernunnos or
Hmm.
Carnunos, and I realized that that's who that was. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and it was just so wild. But I of course was really excited to see and make the connection, because I was so perplexed about this kind of devil like thing that I had seen. And then, of course, looking into the history, and you can probably talk more about this, Faye, but that this was um, the Cernunnos is, or I believe it can be pronounced different ways, Carnunos or Cernunnos, the wild man of the, or I should say the prince of the forest. That's what it is. The prince of the forest and the prince of the wild things. And so, my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that this deity or entity is an entity in the Celtic tradition and is one that was the Christian tradition, of course, tried to demonize and literally turned him into a demon, turned him into the devil. And therefore my association is that, but that's not who that is, obviously. So I was really sad that my association was with the devil, but that was, sort of my cultural collective kind of training. But also really sad that I was scared, and that maybe in my being scared by his sudden presence, he disappeared, and that that I wasn't able to have a longer interaction. But still, of course, so grateful that that I got to meet him in that place and with that plant. So that's my mysterious encounter with Pink Lady Slipper Orchid.
That is a beautiful and that is a truly magical encounter. Thank you so much for sharing that. And immediately when you were describing the horns, I was in my head going, "That's Pan. That's Sir." So I pronounce it Sir Nunos,
Oh,
and
Sir
I'm like,
Nunos. Okay.
but it's interesting how we have that association with the devil, and it's like, no, that's this amazing king of like, what did you say, the prince of wild things, the horned god, the this kind of I feel like I know Pan as this this really strong male presence who is the sort of like the god of the wild things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's such a special encounter to meet this this presence, and it's really, you're just highlighting how actually when it's the fear, I think, that kind of blocks it or pushes it away. But actually, when you were in that state of wonder and awe and absolute, you were in that magical state when you were kind of blessing this plant and feeling so grateful and excited that you had, so you were in this kind of in the zone, you're in this lovely magical zone, and actually it's almost like the thinking mind took a few seconds to catch up, and then went, oh, and then you came out of your kind of reverie, shall we say. It's really interesting, isn't it? That's an amazing encounter. And it was reminding me of there's a book called The Gentleman and the Fawn, and it's a really short book. It's about it's an older gentleman who wrote it, and he had these encounters in Edinburgh, in the gardens in Edinburgh, in the park, with first he met Pan, like you did, and then he would see this little fawn, a little figure that would dance and had horns and hooves, and it would follow him around, and they would have conversations with each other, and this was obviously in Edinburgh, and the man had a very interesting life. It wasn't like he was a banker in the city and just sat in the park. He'd been living, wild in the woods and things. So he just depicts there's just lovely little stories of him meeting this character, and again, this character sometimes would vanish almost when he had kind of, he had to be in a certain, shall we say, mental state or we'd call it frequency now, wouldn't we?
Yes.
And these encounters, they just fill us with such awe and reverence, don't they? And
Yes.
and I think really they're our natural state of being, aren't they? It's, we're naturally this magical.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a good point, because I think that was, in retrospect, I mean, in the moment I was confused, but in retrospect, I realized, yes, that's exactly it. And you said I was sort of in a reverie, and I was so excited to see the plant. I was surprised, I was joyful, I was all those things. I was grateful, all of those, higher frequency emotions that I just got sort of taken away. And then, yeah, and then there he was. And it was totally nothing I ever would have expected. And I would also say this too, because I've thought a lot about it. I thought, oh, did I just imagine it? And then I thought, no, I did. Like this, he was so present, like so present that I
Mm.
literally physically jumped, and that's not something you do with just a thought or an imagination. Like that, it was a physical presence. So it was very, sudden and somewhat shocking, but so beautiful. And of course, I'm glad to hear about this book. I'm going to have to go check it out because, I keep thinking, those kinds of gifts are seldom, repeated. So I think,
Mm.
oh, could that potentially ever happen again? I so wish it would, but because
Mm.
I'd love to sit and have tea with Cernunnos and have more of a conversation. It sounds like this gentleman did. But yeah, so goals, future goals.
I'd say, yeah. I think everyone listening might have that goal as well now.
Yeah, that's
It's really
right.
great.
Well,
But
and
when
this
we
was
did, but when we
so
go ahead.
unexpected, but also, as I said before, I really didn't know who he was. So I
Mm.
wasn't I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't there. It just, it just was spontaneous, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So,
Mm.
so yeah, hopefully another one of those encounters, at some point. But yeah, so that's Lady
It's
Slipper
interesting,
Orchid.
isn't it? 'Cause when you were, with especially with a name like the Lady Slipper Orchid, if you had your thinking mind on, you might want to be like, oh, well, where's the goddess of this plant? Where's this lovely,
Yeah.
sweet little flower fairy, or a sprite who's going to be connecting with me? And that's why it's quite interesting, actually, because when you were speaking, I could really feel male energy. And I thought, I know she's going to say it's masculine because I could sort of feel it in the way that you were speaking. And that I think, again, is like a surprise. And I think it highlights that when we work with plants, even though, I would say that you were just hiking. You weren't specifically thinking, right, I'm going to do a plant connection meditation while I go on my hike. You were just simply, doing the thing that Nina loves to do. But it just goes to show that what we have to do is if we overthink, if we kind of right if we start thinking, right, what's the right approach to this, or how do I do this, am I doing this right, or what's this plant for, how is this plant, what's the special properties of this plant, or how do I identify this plant, if you start to turn on the mind, you kind of bypass all of this magic, which is what you've captured simply because you are naturally curious and excited.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely nailed it. That's that joy and excitement and all of that, childlike sense of wonder,
Mm.
getting back to that place, getting out of our thinking minds, absolutely key. Absolutely key for
Mm.
for any any experience really, in my mind, any hiking experience. If you can find that joy, you can find that excitement about being out, um that is just powerful medicine. Powerful, as
So
opposed to trying to figure out the exact, species or whatever. Just being in that place of wonder. So important. We need to spend a lot more time there.
it sounds to me like hiking kind of this love of the outdoors was this sort of driver, if you like, for you, in terms of meeting it? Is it sort of through just kind of this love of being outside and then naturally being curious to foraging and is listening? How you got kind of to this place?
Oh, good question. the I got well. I have to say it goes back to my childhood. So my father was a forager, and he just loved the mountains of North Carolina. I was raised on the coast of South Carolina, but my father had spent his childhood in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so every chance we got, we were up here in the summers, and he would take us out as soon as we got here. He would take us out. He would teach us all about the plants and the mushrooms. He was a mushroom forager, and so I would say that that's a big part of how it started. But he was also, I'll say this too, he was kind of a unique guy in many respects. He was a Jungian analyst, so he was a psychiatrist who was trained in the theories of Carl Jung. So basically, he, you know, sort of, he was interested in symbology and archetypes and dreams and all of those kinds of things. So in raising us, it was very important that we be exposed to all the fairy tales, of course, and all the things. So a belief in fairies was huge. He really cultivated that in us. I had a long standing, communication with a little fairy by the name of Snowdrop. We would write letters back and forth. And then, of course, later came to find out that that was actually my dad. But at the same time, he opened a door for me that I don't think was ever shut. I still believe in fairies, and so from that perspective, I think it was a combination of being exposed as a young child to the wonders of the outdoors, but also kind of cultivating the imagination as well.
Yeah, that's how fortunate you are, because what you're describing there is this wonderful support from someone that you love and trust to, actively engage that dreamlike quality, or that, I think Jung calls it active imagination or something like that, isn't it?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that's beautiful to have that as a gift, and then to be introduced to the plants. It's really it's so rich, because I would say that in contrast, many people have the opposite. They have that door closed by the adult world or schools, or the way that society kind of likes to shape us and mold us, and shut down these gateways that we might follow with imagining the fairy realms and conversations. And that's really beautiful. And when you were talking there, I was really feeling the presence of your dad, obviously, but the presence of the Blue Ridge Mountains and how connected you are, almost like in your bones, to that place, perhaps through your father, but also sort of within you. It's really do you feel that way? I mean, I feel it in you.
Oh my goodness. It's so, yes, that's interesting you say that. I do feel it in my bones. And when we had the opportunity to move here, I was just, it just, I was so excited. I felt like I was coming home. This feels like home to me. Like I said, I was born on the coast,
Mm.
but I never felt at home there. This is home. There's just no question about it. And I think I think it's a lineage thing, probably goes way back. I did do my DNA testing and found out that I am 98% Scottish.
Woohoo! That's probably more than me. That'll be more than me.
Yeah, I was really surprised to find that I was that heavily Scottish. So so yeah, I think it goes back pretty far, but there's just something about being in the mountains and around the water, the fresh water and these wildflowers, and it's just, yeah, it's definitely, it's a bone thing for sure.
Mm. Yeah. And what would you so I mean, what would you say? Because there'll be some people listening here who are living in the city, and they'll be thinking, well, it's all right for you. You can get out and you can do these things and meet these plants and go on nice hikes. So have you got any advice for, the urban dwellers among us who are sort of
Yeah.
who are looking outside the window going, what's your advice?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's interesting just on my hikes this past weekend when I was talking to the pilgrims that were there and we were hiking along. I always like to find out where they live because one of the things that I think is important is, well, they come to the Smokies, they see this incredible place, but what about when you go home? Okay, you have the memories, but how can you make those connections, you know, when you're home? Many of the people that were there were
Mm.
from large cities, Chicago, Washington, D.C. And so we talked about that. We talked about how you don't, to seek these moments of wonder and these little snippets of beauty, you don't have to go to these amazing places like the Smokies or the Grand Canyon or whatever. You can find that anywhere. You can find that in a little crack in the sidewalk, but you have to seek it. You have to look for it. And so I think if you can go out with that mindset where you're literally seeking that connection or looking for beauty, something that catches your eye, some special thing that just sparks that joy. It could literally be a dandelion through a crack in the sidewalk, and you
Yeah.
can connect and have those same kinds of moments. No question, no question. And I live, I don't live in the forest. I live outside of the city, outside of Asheville, North Carolina. So, I'm not in direct wilderness. It takes me about 45 minutes, 30 minutes to get to that.
Mm.
But a big part of my practice is walking my dog every morning and seeing what's happening. And that's literally how I find my joy is walking the dog in the morning and looking for those special little things. And it could
Yeah.
be hearing the birds. It doesn't have to be necessarily a flower or whatever, but just those little things, absolutely key. There's some new books that are out right now about the emotion of awe and how important it is. Um, the world of psychology has focused for the last 100 years, right, since Freud, on sadness and depression, but there's a few folks that are really kind of tapping into this other side of what it is to be human, and they've found this universal emotion of awe is critical. It is really, really, really important. There are a couple of new books out about it, and they've done a lot of fantastic studies that show awe can really dramatically change how people live in the world. It can, help cure PTSD. It can change your relationship to chronic pain. It's just a very powerful thing. And it's an emotion that can be cultivated. So the more you feel it, the more you feel it, you know? But
Mm.
if you do need to go out and seek it, and they say that beauty is one of the key sort of ways to hack that emotion. So if you go out and seek beauty, find the little beautiful things in your world that really make you, spark that joy and that sense of awe. You can cultivate it, you can grow it, and it can, I think we all need more of that in the world right now. It's kind of a mindfulness hack, really.
Mm.
Seek that beauty.
And also I echo 100% what you're saying. And what I was thinking of, what it was leading me to kind of on to is, when we are able to see the beauty and we kind of, even if we're kind of, even if we're, let's say, we're living the life that we're not quite really aligned with, but we've just got to kind of, we got ourselves into this bind and we've got to do this job and we've got to live here for a while. And it's not quite the way we wanted it. We hadn't planned for it to be like this, but we're doing it right now and we're getting on with it. But yeah, when we can see that beauty and or just kind of find that joy in that 5 minutes of sunlight before before you step back into the office, things like that. And when we are able to find, so not only does it kind of build that neural pathway that will help us to seek it out, I think it kind of creates those different pathways in the brain, but also it helps us to feel that sense of belonging. And then when
Mm.
we feel that sense of belonging, we kind of remember I feel like it triggers all these responses in us, that it helps us remember that we're connected, we're not separate. So therefore, if we've had these feelings of maybe feeling a bit lonely or a bit depressed or a bit like, gosh, we're the only one who's kind of experiencing this, I feel that this is kind of how it's all like a domino effect. It's all connected. But you're absolutely right. It starts with just kind of really seeking out those small moments that where you can just, like the sparkle of the raindrop,
Mm.
making everything wet, the smell. Sometimes, that smell that you get after the day's fallen, these little tiny things, then they help us to start caring for the environment around us, which again is really critical. Okay, so we actually,
Absolutely.
yeah, do you know what? I wanted to ask you about self-care because I know
Yeah.
that's a theme for you on the Substack. But I feel in a sense that we've answered that question by saying that if you see the beauty, start to see. Is there anything else you wanted to add, though, as a sort of ritual or as a practice that you?
Ooh. Um, well, I will definitely answer that question. I do want to circle back one quick thing that I thought of as you were talking about the seeking out those moments, and that is that um, I recently heard about what they're calling the nature pyramid. Have you heard of this?
No, please explain.
Yeah, so much like the food pyramid, it's kind of modeled after those types of things. These scientists are looking at, of course, the physiological effects that we experience from being out in nature. And one of the things that they've come up with is this nature pyramid idea, which is that, you know, there, if you can, like, if you think of the pyramid, right, at the base of the pyramid are experiences that you have during the week, where you are going to try to get yourself outside. Maybe it's for your lunch break in the city and you're just going to walk to the nearest park, but you try to at least spend 30 minutes, or let's say 20 minutes, 3 times a week, somewhere in some kind of outdoor setting, like an urban park. Okay.
Mhm.
But then you kind of go up the pyramid, and at the very tippy top, what you've done is you have set aside 3 days at some point over the course of your year where you get to a place where you are sort of off the grid and you don't have exposure. You can't get a signal on your phone. That's where you're in a national park type situation, and you try to spend at least 3 days a year in those kind of like very deep wilderness settings. So you have these weekly experiences, but then once a year you get out into the wild. So it doesn't have to be that you do that every single week, that wild exposure, but at least once a year you set aside time to do that. That has a very, very powerful effect. They say that the exposure, those 3 days of exposure, the effects go on for about like 3 to 6 months. So again, just an idea about, as you said, it's very hard for many people, especially if you're living in an urban setting, to find the time or to get out. But those little ways that you can expose yourself during the week, so important. And then maybe set aside some time once a year to get into some wilder places. Um, so that's a big part. That's a big part of my self-care for sure. is just getting outside and exposing myself to the outside world. I have a small business, so I find myself inside a lot, sitting in front of a computer, and that is just not, we just have to really check ourselves. Um, and then I would say my other big self-care routine um, has to do with tea. I am a tea fanatic, and I
Yeah.
absolutely I drink tea all day long. I drink black tea, I drink green tea, I drink herbal tea. I just, every chance I get, I go to my little tea cabinet and I will, find some sort of fun thing to mix up. And I just have jars of lots of loose kinds of leaves and roots and things like that. And I'll
Mm,
just, make a tea. Or if I'm out on a hike, I love to carry a thermos of hot water and kind of forage things that I know I can, and pop them in the hot water. And then when I hit my halfway mark, I sit down, enjoy a little cup of tea, um, and have a little reflective moment. It's kind of like taking the forest in, literally,
mm.
and then hike on out. So that tea is one of my major, major self-care routines. And it's also, I think, one of the biggest ways that I interact with the green world, um, and connect to it. So yeah,
Oh, that just made my heart sing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm thinking in my heart, I'm going, yes, I knew it. I knew that's why we were connected because most people who know me know I'm a bit of a tea snob, as in I'm really picky about tea. I, like you, spend a lot of time with different herbs, tea leaves, and I have specific teas that I want to have at specific moments. But what I really I love and I don't think I've ever done it actually, is go on a hike with a a thermos of warm water to make a wild tea. And I'm going to take that away. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I
absolutely.
agree with you. It's really a very intimate way to connect with the plants. And what I find interesting, and I don't know if you find this too, but when people know that you like plants, they're often really excited and they'll say, "Oh, do you do ayahuasca ceremonies?" And I feel so disappointed when someone asks me that kind of question because I'm thinking, have you no imagination? We can be intimate and have these incredible experiences with the plants that are on our backyard. We don't need to. I mean, it's great. The what ayahuasca and other psychoactive plants are offering, but there is just so much more when we're kind of out foraging outside in our backyard. So thank you so much
Absolutely.
for sharing that.
Yeah, it's actually you're, circling back to what you were saying before about connecting to your sense of place, it's
Mm,
really a powerful way to do that. In some ways, even, on the daily, more powerful from a cumulative perspective in terms of, connecting with the plants and your place if you're just foraging your backyard weeds. And, those weeds are so, so powerful. And very often they're there, certainly here in the US, because someone has put them in their pocket, century ago, and brought them from wherever they had come from because they were medicine for them in their home.
mm,
So these weeds are powerful, dandelion, chickweed, all of these things, and they offer so much. Very often they're considered invasive.
mm.
So it's, it's easy to forage for them, get them, and utilize them. So really, really, I think you're right, Faye. It's really, really important to just try to connect with the plants in your own backyard.
Yeah, they just have a like vibration which is, in alignment with yours.
Mm.
Before we go, I do want to just I have been looking, I haven't got one of your bandanas. I don't actually know whether you ship to the UK, but anyone listening, Nina is producing these incredible wildflower bandanas, and I love that. I'm looking at the geranium, the solidago. There's Joe Pyeweed. Oh, I do remember that from my time in Canada. The trilliums. It's actually really beautiful, this bandana,
Oh,
and it's got all and the columbine, and oh yeah, I mean the trilliums. I was like, oh, they're out in my back garden at the moment, and it just really makes me want to go and connect with them. So it's such a
oh,
beautiful. It's
thank
really
you, Faye.
lovely. And it's really lovely to the idea of making it into a bandana. I've got a tea towel that I got years ago from one of the Scottish islands, which has got some of their wildflowers written on. But actually, a bandana, like something that you can wear, again, it helps you. It's a way of communing with the plants, isn't it? It's a way of kind of like honoring them somehow.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. I was inspired to create this bandana last year on the Wildflower Pilgrimage. Actually, I was scoping out my hike assignments, and I ran into a group of women who were well, we struck up a conversation, and they said they come to the park every year, and they come to see the wildflowers, and they love the wildflowers, and it's the highlight of their year. And so I said, oh, well, do you know about the pilgrimage? And so we were chatting up I was chatting about that with some women, and then another woman literally bent over, picked a flower while I was talking to that room, put it in front of my face and said, well, what is this called? And I just was so, I was so upset. But at the same time, I realized that, number one, they didn't know the names of the flowers, yet they come every
Mm,
year. And so I thought, wow, okay, so these are people who, for whatever reason, are not field guide people. They haven't gotten a field guide. Otherwise, they would have gotten a field guide and already know the names of the flowers. Um, and then the other thing is, we have these apps that don't work in national parks. You can't get reception, or they're inaccurate. So I thought,
yeah.
if there was a way for women like this, for, everyday people to have a field guide on hand that was something they could refer to, maybe they would feel a deeper connection. Maybe they wouldn't pick the flowers. But whatever, it's at least a way to connect. And so yeah, so I thought, oh, what if it was on a bandana? So yeah, I've created this field guide bandana to Appalachian wildflowers. And thank you, Faye. You're sweet to say such lovely things about it. It features 40 wildflowers that you can see all along the Appalachian region. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of things, anywhere from Georgia to Maine. You'll see these particular flowers, and beyond as well. So yeah, that's kind of the story
Mm.
behind it. But it is it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun creating it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. And I've got two more questions. So the final
Yeah.
question is, what are you excited about? What are you excited about most for yourself or for your projects this summer?
Ooh, oh my, so many things. Well, first of all, I'm just excited about summer. I'm excited about spring. Let me say, we
Yeah.
here in Western North Carolina, we had a really, really, really horrendous flood last fall that was devastating to the area. And
Mm.
so it was a long, hard winter, and we are all very, very happy to see everything budding out. It's particularly joyful this year. And so that sort of promise of spring, and knowing that, yes, there is this thing that happens regardless of such devastation. Everything is budding out again. Things are, you know, going to
Mm.
be everything's in renewal, I guess, is the feeling that we're getting here. So I'm very excited about just being in this season, the season of spring and the season of summer. Um, let's see. As far as special projects, I am working on a project right now that is I'm very excited about. It's to be revealed. So it's a bit of a
Okay.
secret right now, but it is happening, and I will reveal soon what it is. So yeah, just working on that project. I've got some workshops coming up over the summer. I think you've got workshops coming up over the summer too, don't you?
Yeah, well, I'm focusing at the moment on the kind of retreats, and yeah, summer school. My annual summer school happens every June, July. It's like a real 5 day immersion with the plants here. And I have a yurt here as well, which is now really set up for overnight stays. So that's where the kind of
Oh,
retreat. So it's an opportunity for people to come and, do all the things that we've been talking about. Be in nature, connect, get that sense of awe back, be present, and yeah, and enjoy where I am. I'm situated in the county Fife, which is outside of Edinburgh, and we're also by the coast as well. So it's quite a unique spot, easy to get to, but actually, feels peaceful and wild. So
oh
yeah, it's
gosh,
just
Faye, that sounds
encouraging.
amazing. I'm not going to be able to make it this year, but it is on my list. I am so there. If it can happen next year, I would so love to participate in one of your retreats. It sounds fantastic, and visit my ancestral homeland as well.
Absolutely, it will call you eventually. It
Indeed.
will, and
Oh, it already
you'll make
is.
yeah, you'll make that. It's lovely because you were talking about the Appalachians having the link here, and it feels like you're just going to make that energetic link yourself. So we
Yes,
look forward to that. Okay, so
perfect.
this is just a reminder. I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody for being here and chatting to me, Nina. And just another, reminder to everybody: go and check out Flora and Forage. And because yeah, we haven't even got into all the things. I mean, green sketching, rucking, the journaling, the art. All the art journaling. It's all really creative. The it's what I love, Nina, is that lovely way that you follow your joy with the plants. You hike, you look, you observe, you journal, you question, and you have that lovely childlike curiosity, which we all really need to cultivate. So thank you very, very much. Is there anything else that you want to say to people listening before we say goodbye?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Faye. I so appreciate this. It's been such a delightful conversation, and I hope to have more of them in the future. Um, and yeah, I just would encourage everyone to seek that joy. It is easy to find once you start looking for it, and it only gets better the more you do it. So yeah, go find it.
Thank you so much, Nina, and take care, everyone. Speak to you all soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.